All right, awesome. Welcome, everybody, to Shaping the Future of Radiological Protection, Engaging the Next Generation. We're super excited for you guys to be here today. This is kind of a first-time style event for us. It's not designed to be technical in nature, and it's really meant to highlight some of the people and organizations that are supporting RP through, like I said, different avenues than technical work. So again, it's really just kind of a chance to come together across borders and generations and across sectors to help kind of shape the field of RP kind of moving forward. So again, we designed this event, and the main goal is to really kind of inspire and engage and to take action. So we hope that everybody, by the end of these 2 days, you'll be able to take something kind of from this that you can take back to your organizations, to your countries, and find something where you might be able to support and engage the next generation. So again, whether you're an emerging professional, a decision maker, an educator, or a longtime expert, this event is for you. There's something that you should be able to take from it, and there's something you have a role to play in kind of what comes next. So before I go too far into how the next few days are going to look, definitely want to thank our presenting partners at the Radiation Safety Institute of Canada and Cameco for their support. They really kind of allowed us the opportunity and the resources to put something like this on. It's been many months in the making, and it's definitely a bit more work than our usual workshops and webinars that we have online. So in addition to them, again, the organizations that contributed to this financially, so the Federal Authority for Nuclear Regulation in the UAE, the Electric Power Research Institute, the Chinese Society for Radiation Protection, the China Institute for Radiation Protection, the American Association of Physicists in Medicine, TÜV SÜD, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, the Australasian Radiation Protection Society, the Conference of Radiation Control Program Directors, and Eurodose. And Eurodose kind of has something special supporting people to come to ICRP 2025 later this year, and you'll hear a bit more about that tomorrow. So, and again, thank you to all the people who supported this event by purchasing voluntary tickets. Everything that was put into to this event is going to be going towards supporting emerging professionals to come to Abu Dhabi later this year. So you can find out all the information about ICRP 2025 by going to icrp.org. And I'd also be remiss if we didn't thank our annual sponsors and contributors that provide funding to ICRP to allow us to do the work that we do on an annual basis. I'll touch a bit more on it later, but ICRP is a registered charity. We're not a huge bureaucratic institution. So the voluntary contributions from around the world certainly allow us to do what we do. And I'd also be remiss if I didn't say that we're still accepting contributions for this initiative. So, if there's something that resonates with your organization or you as an individual contributor, we're still accepting, and we will still accept all this week contributions to put towards the funding of emerging professionals to come to ICRP 2025. So currently, we raised 15,000 euros through the direct financial contributions from the organizations that I mentioned before, and the voluntary paid tickets for today's event. And that's a pretty big deal for ICRP. Again, we're not a large organization, especially financially. And supporting ICRP mentees and other young professionals to come to ICRP events is something we haven't been able to afford before. So it's a really big deal, and we wouldn't be able to do that without the organizations and the people, and you guys kind of coming here today to support that. So thank you. Again, if there's anything that kind of piques your interest over these next few days, send me an email. You all should have that if you're on this call from Zoom, or feel free to reach out to info@icrp.org. So with that kind of piece, I guess a bit more house cleaning too, or housekeeping, shall I say. The Q&A function at the bottom is there for you to use. People who attend over half of the live sessions over the next 2 days will receive certificates of attendance, and all approved slides will be available along with the recordings of this within a week or two. So, so a bit about how we got here today. The inspiration from this really lies with the Vancouver Call for Action, which is not necessarily a statement, but like a challenge that ICRP had kind of put to the RP world a few years ago, to really kind of stop talking about all of the issues that we're facing kind of as a sector in RP, and really kind of putting things into action. So I'm not going to go too detailed into the Vancouver Call for Action, because it's something that will be discussed more at length tomorrow. But really, it's kind of has 5 main points. One being governments and funding agencies encouraged to step up. So invest in RP and the people that are in it. National research labs and institutions to launch long-term sustainable research programs, not just things that are one-off and only maybe last a year or two, but things that are continually supporting the research and people kind of into the future. Universities and colleges around the world to play a critical role in developing undergrad and graduate programs that are appealing to some of the younger generation to come in and learn about this important field, and provide them with the tools and the knowledge to go off into the various career paths and sectors, and as well also to communicate more clearly. And I think that is a big part of what this event in these next 2 days is to well, promote the Vancouver Call for Action, but to identify a lot of the issues that are going on around the world in terms of human resources and RP, as well as using the plain language to talk about like risks and benefits and protections and things like that. So, and again, educate the educators. So train the information multipliers so that awareness and understanding of radiation and protection can spread in schools and communities and beyond. So some of these were bold and practical actions, but they're not just for policymakers or large institutions. They're for everyone. So whether you're again a seasoned RP expert, you're in marketing or communications or anything that's kind of radiation or RP adjacent, there's a challenge in there for you. And again, something we hope that you take from the next few days is what you can do as an organization or as a person to kind of support RP as a whole, and again, the field moving forward. So today again is just kind of one small way that we at ICRP are answering this call. It's not sorry, I just kind of had a brain lapse there. Again, it's one small way that we're doing it. The Vancouver call is not for just ICRP. We're not the only ones that are involved in this process. It's for RP as a whole, and we do have a platform and a voice kind of globally. So this was something that we thought would be beneficial and cost efficient, which is great for us to participate in something like this. So I don't want to say it's going to be the first of many, but we're really hoping that out of these next 2 days that we can take things that will be able to do similar events in the future that aren't necessarily just supporting the technical work, but also again the human resources and challenges that RP faces. So so why this kind of matters is no matter where I've been, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call can attest that everyone around the world is talking about similar issues with RP is going through these amazing changes, and there's amazing technological advancements happening in medicine and space travel, in energy, at the current rate that the amount of people that are coming into the RP profession is not sustainable for the need for it. And everybody is talking about it, and it's really hard to address those problems if we're all trying to work individually. So again, we're doing this so that we can try to unite a voice. And again, it's a huge piece of kind of tomorrow's talk, is about doing this or having a unified effort to do this. So quickly, just about ICRP, I alluded to it a bit before. I think a big misconception about ICRP is that we're this massive organization with a very large budget and things like that, and we're very much not that. I think we look a lot bigger than we are, because we have over 400 amazing volunteers around the world, but the fact of the matter is we only have really 7 staff that are supporting the work of all these volunteers around the world. And again, we're a charity, so our funding doesn't come from membership fees or from member states or anything like that. Everything is supported by the voluntary contributions of people, governments, industry, associations from around the world. And our budget is less than €1 million per year. And I think a lot of people are surprised about that, because again, we do have quite the reach, but we face challenges like many small charities around the world face it. Funding's not easy to come by, and so if you are interested in supporting ICRP, also feel free to email info@icrp.org. But we really operate on collaboration. If we didn't have the contacts that we do have around the world, that we wouldn't be able to do what we do, whether that's with organizations in formal relations with ICRP, our volunteers, members supporting their travel and participation in ICRP work, or those donations and contributions to the work that we do. So again, that's why events like this and your support is crucial, and it's so much to us. Any sort of support, whether direct or indirect, is much appreciated, but also necessary to the future and the work of ICRP. So, and another misconception, I think, is that, again, because people think that ICRP is so big that we're potentially, or that we're not accessible. And I'm hoping that people kind of take these next 2 days that we very much are. So, if you email info@icrp.org, a question, that goes to me, or if you ever receive one of our emails to attend something like this, that also comes from me. So apologies sometimes if there's too many happening at once, but we are quite busy. But again, hopefully you can see that there's a face to the emails or the questions that you have for ICRP. So and ways that you can participate more in what we're doing. Now we have open calls for our mentorship program, for task groups. You can attend ICRP 2025, and again, all information for that you can find on icrp.org. And a big thing that we want to do too is help us expand our collaboration and reach into like Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. Unfortunately for us, again, with a limited budget, it makes us very hard for us to go and meet in person with all of this talent and expertise that are in these areas. So if something of similar, like if you have similar interest in that, definitely reach out to us about kind of collaboration, because we would love to be in those areas, engaging more locally with the RP community. But yeah, so what to expect over the next couple days is today is really about the human side of ICRP. So the first handful of speakers that you will meet are either current or former ICRP mentees, or other emerging professionals that are from around the world. And really, they've been asked to kind of highlight, a bit about their work, but also their stories, why they got into the field, and some of the professional and personal experiences that they've experienced because of it, and as well as kind of also having some more established ICRP people talking about the ICRP mentorship program, but also providing an insight into the various careers that are involved in RP, but also providing some advice. And then or for career advancement and how they got involved and things that, again, emerging professionals can kind of take on or look into to try to, again, advance their careers in RP. And again, today's supposed to be fun. So, which is why I didn't really want to have any slides for this. Like, it's really meant to be conversational for me personally. Anyways, the speakers will have slides to kind of help tell their stories a little bit. And again, providing advice. So use the chat, ask questions. Again, there's a time and place to ask about dosimetry and dose coefficients and diagnostic reference levels, but today is not that day. It's really meant, again, to have the human side of RP and ask questions and advice and things like that. And so before we kind of move on and start this officially today, thank you for being here. Again, this is something that is new for us, and we ended up with over 1,000 registrants, and there's almost 400 people live right now, which is incredible. And I think it really goes to show that there's interest in this, that that people want to know how they can help. Like I said, I think we all know and are familiar with the challenges that the field of RP is facing. So it's great to see you guys here today to participate in this, right? Like, again, ICRP does not own RP. We are just a cog in the wheel. And it really is going to take an effort from all of us to address some of the issues that are facing RP. Again, I've mentioned that we need funding, but we're not the only ones. Whether it's supporting people in your organizations to attend ICRP events or other related RP events, do that. We all need the resources and the financing. And again, it's not just us. So if there's little ways that you can find to get people more engaged and active, especially on an international basis, please do it. As much as I'd love to say everyone give their money to us, we could use it, but it's more than that. It's about supporting the people that are in your organization to move forward. So again, we can't do it alone, and it's really going to take a unified effort across sectors and governments and borders and professions, and it's not just one organization or one person that's going to solve some of the issues that we're looking at that. So if I could hope that you take anything from these next 2 days, it would be to take something you've heard from someone or about what an organization's doing and turn it into something tangible. Again, little things add up to the big things, and radiological protection deserves it. The people that are involved in it deserve it, and the world needs it. Again, to keep up with all of the technological advancements that use ionizing radiation, I think it's very important that we all find a way to support it in our own way. So with that said, I'm going to introduce the moderator who's going to kind of keep things rolling for the rest of the day. Her name is Ämilie Degenhardt. She is a member of ICRP Task Group 121 as a mentee, and she's currently a postdoctoral fellow at the German Federal Office for Radiation Protection, BFS, by way of Brazil. And she's passionate about connecting early career scientists and making sure her dog gets enough belly rub. So thank you, Ämilie. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kelsey, for introducing me. Thanks everybody for being here, for attending this event. And also thank you, ICRP, so much for all the support you have given to young researchers and professionals in radiation protection. I will start with my presentation. Hope you guys can see it.
Okay.
So I would talk a little bit about being beyond the lab and how I've been working with creating communities and opportunities for early career scientists. So who am I? I am originally from Brazil. I am this cute dog's mom. Her name is Capitu. She is also from Brazil, and I took her to Germany with me. I am a radiation biophysicist. This is my PhD, and I am mainly working with internal dosimetry. As Kelsey already said, I am a member mentee in the task group 121 and also a full member in the task group 95. And I am involved in the Radionorm project, so I'm a postdoctoral fellow in the frame of the Radionorm project, and I am also involved in the Radionorm Early Career Researchers Council. I will talk about it later, and also ICRA network, which is also a network for young professionals and scientists in radiation protection. So I would say that I always thought I was a girl from the lab. So I got my bachelor degree. Um, it's a special bachelor degree that we have in Brazil, is like technology of radiology. So it's focused on radiology, but it's more not so medical. There's a lot of physics in there. I don't know how to explain that for you guys. But then I was working mainly with occupational exposures in nuclear medicine. And then for my master project, I started to work with therapies with radiopharmaceuticals in nuclear medicine. Then for my PhD, I was working with internal dosimetry and like population screening in emergency situations. And now as a postdoc as in BFS, working with biokinetic modeling and mainly lab stuff. So now I do more computational things, so modeling, but before that, it was always something in the lab, labeling radiopharmaceuticals or dealing with radioactive sources. So I thought, okay, I thought I didn't have many soft skills. I thought I was like, okay, this is my path. I'm gonna work mainly in the lab, and I was very, you know, I think it was good with that. Um, I I was doing very well actually with my researches, and I so for example my PhD work was awarded many times in conferences and also in the institute. And as a postdoc now in this project I'm working on with biokinetic modeling, I was also a finalist of the Cousins Award. And so I thought that would be my path. And then I started to be more involved with young researchers, networks, and communities. And I got to know about the ICRP mentorship program. And I, so Augusto is our mentor. He is mentoring Sarah and I. Sarah is also from Brazil, and it was so interesting because I got to know her because of the ICRP mentorship program. And I have had many opportunities because of that. So first of all, I could like learn more about how the ICRP work is done and how they get to the reports and the publications, and how, and also participating in the discussions and the workshops. And because of our work in the frame of the task group, I could also publish some papers and participate in the symposia of the ICRP and engage with and do networking with other researchers, senior researchers, young researchers. And this was like a new world for me, not only in the lab but also understand a little bit more about the ICRP and its impact, how far reaching the work of ICRP is. And so as you can see in the picture, a lot of people, I started to interact more with people, and it has been great. As I told you, like I published these 2 papers in the frame of our work in the ICRP task group, and I also realized how supportive the ICRP is. So we had an event, I'm going to talk about it later, in Munich, and for example, the vice chair of the ICRP came to Munich for our event, and also other members. So Werner, the chair of the ICRP, Nina. So I could see how supportive and how engaging they are to activities, and I'm so grateful to ICRP for that. And also then I was like interacting more with other mentees and other young researchers in the radiological protection field. And in the Radionorm project, they decided to create this initiative for young researchers in the project. And I was already with this scene set in my mind about community, about networking, and how that was so important for me at this stage in my career that I decided to really be involved in this initiative from the project. And in 2022, the Radionorm project established this council for the early career researchers in the project, and the main goal was to allow closer contacts and also networking of young researchers. And I was elected the first chairperson. We were organizing monthly meetings, of course, online, because we are scattered in Europe, and also training courses. Those are always in person, and also other events for early career researchers, for example, in during annual meetings of the project, and all of that. And I got even more into networking and trying to understand our needs, and if it was just a personal impression of the field, or is it a shared something that other person are also feeling, how we can solve that. And I got to learn the needs, the complaints, expectations, worries, not only from me but also from my fellows. And then I realized that I am also a networking girl. I am a lab girl. I love research, but also I am a networking girl. And then I realized that I have some soft skills. You know, as a chairperson of this initiative, I saw that I have leadership skills, that I can set good teamwork, and also I can be problem solving. Usually very simple solutions. You know, I'm not into bringing a rock from the moon, but trying to have like simple solutions and quick solving. And also, I am a people person. You know, I like to communicate and enjoy networking. I enjoy listening to people and also talking a lot. And I'm also very good at organizing meetings and organizing events. The past few years, I've been involved in many meetings and events for young researchers, and I saw this different side of myself that I would never. Maybe at some point I would find out about that, but because I was involved in the ICRP and in the Radionorm project, I realized that I'm more than just a lab girl. And then that's the thing. So Radionorm is now walking towards the conclusion. And then we started to think, what now? What are we going to do with this connection and this community that we created in the Radionorm project? So, because like we had many training courses, and then we got to really connect to each other and talk to each other. And we were not just colleagues, but we became friends. And it would be a pity to just let it slip away just because we couldn't just find a way to connect. And then so this three people that you see in the screen, so Nazanin, myself, and Jad, we are all early career researchers in the project, and we were thinking, what can we do? And then we came up with the ECRAD network. So we were told about the pianoforte call for fund for early career researcher or in professionals, networking events, and we thought that that could be a solution for like maybe organizing a meeting and bringing more young researchers from across Europe so that we could discuss if they also need this kind of networking thing, if they also need like a community, how could we establish this community and how we would be structured in these kind of things. So we got this fund for the event, and we had not only young researchers but also seniors, as you can see in the picture. Simon was also there, and we had like this 2 days. They were really nice. We discussed a lot. We also could learn from other initiatives for young researchers and professionals in radiation protection, from Melody, Pianoforte, and Share, and many partnerships and projects and platforms that we have in Europe. And we decided to do things a little bit different. So we still are gathering people. So if you're interested in being in a network, you're like, feel free to contact me. We need more people. We need human resources to do everything that we want to. But we are thinking about having this grassroots approach. So what is nice about ICRP is that you have a mentor, is a senior, so he's like guiding you through your path. But what we think that could be also interesting is to have this grassroots approach. So we ourselves we can set mentors. So for example, a PhD student could be a mentor to a master student, so that we have this we don't need only seniors, because a PhD student has something to help and to guide and to just help other people that are now starting their path in research or as a professional. And also having this peer support. I think this is something that we realize it's so good to have people in the same stage, so that we can talk and find solutions together. And also trying to figure out what would be the next steps for young scientists and radiation protection professionals. And we decided to have meetings at the European Radiation Protection Week. European Radiation Protection Week. And we had our first one last year in Rome. And we are also planning and organizing one at the European Radiation Protection Week this year. That's going to happen in London. So as soon as we start with the registrations, please feel free to register yourself. Usually this is for free. We apply for this fund and Pianoforte. So we try to do everything for free, so that young researchers can engage and enjoy this opportunity. So after learning more about and talking more to other young researchers and professionals, what do we need? First of all, we need jobs. It's important to highlight that now I'm a postdoctoral fellow, and all this young researchers and professionals that I am touched with, we are all finishing our contracts, either the master program or the PhD work. So now we are in this stage that we want to continue to be connected, but also, are we staying in research or radiation protection? So what would be those next steps? We also need some support, and it doesn't have to be money, because some institutions, they do have money, but they don't really support the young scientists to attend events and conferences and meetings and whatnot. And this is a pity, because as we need to do that, we need to be there in person to do networking, to figure out our path out. And so um, if you have a mentee, if you have a PhD or a master student, I would advise you or ask you maybe to support them to be there, either financially or like just giving this encouragement and motivate them to be there, because this is good for us to connect. And this is we have had like such nice events and opportunities to connect. So, for example, I want to show this picture. This was an ICRP get together that we had in Rome. It was all for free, all funded for by the Pianoforte fund for this networking event, and they had such a nice nice dinner there. And it's not only about doing our job, but understanding ourselves as what do we do in radiation protection. And I think this is important, also to mentor. And we need mentorship, and so I'm so thankful to ICRP for this initiative, and also other platforms that we have, for example, in Europe. I'm pretty sure in other countries and other continents you also have this kind of things. But it's good that if you can take some time to actively mentor some of the young researchers and professionals that you have around you. It doesn't have to be something really formal, like, okay, let's engage in something, but just, tutor them, just guide them and support them this way. And also, I think this is very important. We also need training in to be developed in other skills than only this technical skills. I have been seeing how much soft skills are important also in our profession. So this is something that I think it's very important to train the next generation in other skills than only technical. And I don't want to talk longer than that. So I would like to thank you for your attention, and hope we can discuss more about that later. We will have Q&A later on. So I would like to now introduce our next speaker, which is Win Tuthar from the Nagasaki University, Japan. And so Win is bringing the gap between science and society, connecting cultures and learning from real world experiences, whether in the lab, the field, or through conversations that spark new ideas. So Win, please, you can start. I think you're muted.
Hello, can you
Hi.
see my slide?
Yes, and we can also hear you.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. And thank you, Ämilie, for your introduction. And thank you, ICRP, for inviting me in this session to speak. So my name is Win, and I'm a final year of my PhD student, PhD in Advanced Preventive Medical Science at Nagasaki University, Japan. Today, I would like to share I wanted to share with you how I entered to this field, radiation protection, of course, what inspired me to continue, and then some of the personal and professional experiences that have shaped my journey. And so let's start with. So before I talk about why I choose radiation protection, I would like to share who inspired me to stay in school, education. So I was inspired by my grandparents alongside 5 younger siblings. Despite limited resources, they created an environment where education was a priority. So they believe I could be the first in the family to finish high school and change our future. So they are quite sacrificed from sharing what little we had to make sure I had light to study, the foundation of my journey, my study. So choosing a subject that barely interests among young generation in engineering, like many other students, I pick a subject without really knowing what it means, like other students. The only thing I would ever heard about was, atomic bomb in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So that is actually why I wrote the subject down as my first choice as a nuclear engineer. For years, even my family didn't know I was studying nuclear engineering. They thought I would build a building in town after finishing engineering school. So fortunately, in my final year of undergrad, I was selected by the Minister of Science and Technology of Myanmar for having the highest score over the 5 years. And I was sent to the Nuclear Malaysia Agency for a postgraduate course in radiation protection and radioactive sources, which is funded by IAEA. So I became the first student from Myanmar in the history who has been sent to the abroad. Maybe it sounds a little bit weird, but this is a situation in my country in 2014. So when I come back from Malaysia, I was assigned to the Department of Atomic Energy in Naypyidaw in Myanmar, and I began my career in policy supporting the drafting of nuclear Myanmar law and contributing to the some of technical project. So then Cambodia. So after about 3 years working at the ministry, so I moved to Ministry of Science and Technology in Myanmar. I moved to Cambodia work as a private school teacher and teaching mathematics and physics just to earn some money. During that time, I had the opportunity to chat with Professor Ratichan, who is currently the senior minister in Cambodia. He was a visiting professor at Nagasaki University, and I share my interest in continuing my study and explain how I was managing financially. The next day, and he called me, and then he said that you are going to Japan, and please remember, never let anything stop your education because of money. And thanks to support from Cambodia, I was able to begin my study in Japan. So why Japan? Why I choose radiation protection? So coming to Japan, giving me the opportunity to continue my study in the field. Sometime you may not start with a clear idea of what career you want, whether one subject will define your path. But just keep going and you stay in the field, and then one day you realize you are already working the line that feel right for you. So I completed my master's degree in advanced preventive medical at disaster and radiation medical science, and now I am in the final year at the Department of Global Health Medicine and Welfare, Nagasaki University. So my study in Japan under the supervision of Professor Jack Loescher and Professor Noburu Takamura, some of you may know. I received the financially funded scholarship from one of the best, the most prestigious scholarship in Japan, the Honjo Scholarship Foundation. So, and my research mainly focusing on the radiation protection, risk perception, stakeholder engagement, and the co-expertive process, which is recommended by ICRP for the recovery management or recovery process after a nuclear accident. So during my master, I explored theoretical foundation and examinified a case study from Fukushima and Chernobyl. I also conducted interview with expert and drew lesson from training in Fukushima. So in PhD, I focus in two towns. I don't know. I focus in two towns. One is you may see in the figure. One is in Tomioka, where the evacuation order was partially lifted in April 2017. Another one is Futaba. Just recently, evacuation order lifted in 2022. So both town has a very challenging situation like low return rate and then limited job, access to school and healthcare. So to understand how this co-expertive process can be successfully implemented in both towns, my research look at what motivate people to engage in radiation measurement and dialogue, as well as their concern and knowledge-seeking behaviors. So I use MIS method using SPSS and then other qualitative software. If you are interested in the detail, you will find in the reference following. So beyond Japan, in 2023, I had the opportunity to present my work at NEA International Radiation Protection School course. Why I mentioned that, with the help of one lady from NEA, who I met in Fukushima. So why I mentioned that, because this training course inspired me. This is the radiation protection training course, and this inspired me to explore how my study, the co-expertive process outside post-accident recovery. So I co-authored a paper on how it could help Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization inspector. I also join training course in a different organization and conferences like IAEA, ICRP, and CTBTO and SRP from UK. So you will know why I am mentioning about this. I recently finished my internship at ICRP scientific secretary, one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. So I learned how to present technical idea clearly and saw the value of the listening to diverse perspective. It's also deepened my appreciation for building a It also deepened my appreciation for building a strong culture of radiation protection, especially in country still developing their system. As someone come from a country with very limited human resources in the nuclear field, as like other Southeast Asian country, I try to stay connected to the international radiation protection community and beyond, just to stay informed about what are the developments and opportunities. So I also participated different program trainings and conferences related to stakeholder engagement and radiation protection, nuclear security, and public health. So while ICRP relies significantly on expert input from established radiation protection community, I respectfully believe there is still great value in considering how to engage with young professionals, particularly from regions where radiation protection systems are still evolving, or where nuclear facilities are just being planned. So supporting the involvement of these professionals could help foster a broader, a more inclusive foundation for the future of radiation protection. And this is just acknowledgement. So as you already listened during this few minutes, you heard that my journey has been like full of challenges, but kindness and support from my mentors and also from other people. And I'm so grateful to the mentors and people who believe in me, and I'm still learning and still, just keep going to stay in this field where I am interested in. So, to close, I would like to highlight an exciting opportunity, ICRP 2025 in Abu Dhabi from 6 to 9 October. I believe it will be very great space for early career professional to explore the questions like, why is ICRP is talking about emerging experts? What do reasonableness and tolerability means? Why are we talking about radiation protection in the context of armed conflicts? And yeah, I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Win. Thank you for sharing your very inspirational story. I would like to introduce you our next speaker, which is Hafsa Essop from the University of Pretoria in South Africa. So Hafsa is a first-year lecturer teaching radiation protection to 65 to 75 students. She uses principles of gamification in her teaching to make the principles of radiation protection understandable and applicable, using activities such as mock court cases regarding the effects of radiation, medical legal cases, and board games with quizzes. So Hafsa, you're welcome to start your presentation.
Okay, great. So hello everyone again, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm going to put my video off. I think that's also troubling my connection. So yes, I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Pretoria. I'm also a first-year guardian, and I'm also the winner of the Cousins Award in 2023. So I'm very excited to be here and share some things about me and our university. So this is University of Pretoria in South Africa, and South Africa, according to the United Nations, is a developing country, but our campus has beautiful facilities, state-of-the-art global world-class facilities. So we're really privileged to be teaching in such an institute. I've even added a link there in case you're curious to know, what it looks like, because there's always this misconception that, Africa, South Africa, we're really rural areas, but we do have beautiful facilities. I'm also the first-year guardian and first-year lecturer to some really vibrant, beautiful first-year medical imaging students, and you can see them over here. So what is it that I do? So we teach radiation protection as a foundational phase. And I came across this really beautiful article recently, and I think it ties in really beautifully what Ämilie said, that the title is Beyond Technical Proficiency, the Role of Soft Skills in Medical Radiation Science. And that is essentially what we teach. So we teach the soft skills, and this is communication with patients and the medical team. So for example, we give a lot of case scenarios whereby how to communicate risk with the patient, and also how to work in a multidisciplinary team where you're also communicating risk with medical doctors and channeling them to the right imaging examinations. And this also ties in with justification. We teach them how to check, is this imaging procedure really justified? And also the radiation protection principles. And then you get to the technical parts, just as low as reasonably achievable, dose optimization, lead shielding and dosimetry, etc. And this ties in really nicely with ICRP's mission and recommendations, and that is to the three fundamental principles, which is justification, optimization, dose limitation. Right, so, and also the ICRP strategic goals, which is strategic priorities, which is to increase outreach worldwide, focusing on education, training, affected populations, and us here in Africa, underserved regions of the world. So we're really fitting in nicely with ICRP's priorities. And so I think my role is really important in the sense that I have the first years, and you may think, yeah, but first years, they still, very new to the world. And this is the best starting point. So if you look at foundational knowledge, and if you take it back to really from even elementary school, it says here that it's for children, it's an educational necessity, a moral imperative. And also this is a really fitting line that it unlocks the full potential of future generations and paves the way for a brighter, more prosperous future worldwide. And I think that's quite nice for the theme of today. And now if you shift that to the university level, it says foundational knowledge is the building blocks needed for sequential and cumulative development of understanding. And really what we're doing is we are creating the building blocks for radiation protection, but giving them the appropriate, the accurate information in order to build a strong foundation. So I do have challenges when teaching this here. And the first challenge is professional role modeling. So I teach something and I say that, yes, you have to use lead shielding, you have to use your dosimeter and things like that. And when they get to the clinical practice, sometimes it doesn't happen. And then they come back to me and they say, but ma'am, you tell us this, but they're actually not doing it there. And this is a global challenge. If you look at the literature, you will see that there's really a lack of non-compliance to radiation protection measures globally. And the second challenge I have is the teaching Gen Zs. Now, Gen Zs are not students that you can just pull wool over their eyes or just tell them something and then make them believe. They have to really believe it. They have to understand it. And so this is where I come in. So my role and responsibility as a first-year educator is to help students acquire and comprehend essential knowledge. And this means that it's not only knowing, but understanding, resonating, feeling it. And where the ICRP has helped me greatly is actually the history behind radiation effects, where it started. When I was a student, I learned about Rutgen and his wife, and it kind of ended there in terms of effects. But the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings and all the different classifications of effects that have emanated from there has really, really enabled me to teach better and to also let my students understand the history behind it. And then also to absorb and apply. So it's not only good enough for me to just teach it, but when they get to the clinical department, when they're not with me, it's for them to actually understand and want to apply, not because somebody's telling them to. And I think this is very important as serving as a catalyst for change. If we're teaching the new generation about radiation protection, they will be the change in comparison to what they're seeing. And then, of course, lastly, is to create an enjoying and engaging environment. I saw something recently that said, it's not our job to entertain, it's our job to educate. And I was taken back because I think it is our job to make learning an enjoyable experience, because that's when you will get the engagement. So what do? We have very interesting mock court cases about radiation protection. So we'll have a defendant and the accused, and really a hypothetical, very far-fetched case scenario regarding the effects of radiation, and then the accused of who caused that, or who may have caused it. And then I also developed a radiography board game called Bones and Ladders, so it derived from Snakes and Ladders, and I'll show you now what we do. All right, so here's a snippet of the court case. So I invite the students to a court case. I give them all the theoretical underpinnings about radiation protection, all the theory, all the detrimental doses, the stochastic effects, the detrimental effects, all of that. And then we have a court case. So you can see this is a very hypothetical one where it says mother pins blame on the chest x-ray as a cause of her child developing cancer. Now we all know that one chest x-ray is not going to cause cancer. However, there is still that possibility of stochastic effects. So we have two different teams and they need to now debate, and it can swing both ways. And this really enables them to apply what they were taught, but also in future, you don't know that, the public is getting more educated, and medical lawsuits are very rife right now. And then we have a board game over here. So you can see that it's got different levels. The first is the recall, the second is blue is the anatomy. But your higher level, and this also relates to Bloom's taxonomy, for those in education, you'll know, and this is your case discussions. So when they get there, they have to debate and they have to really internalize what it is that the question is asking. And the question can be, a pregnant patient is waiting in the area. In the waiting area and sees that no pregnant patient sign, the patient has anxiety, explain how you will appropriately communicate risk to the patient. And this is quite fitting with ICRP strategies, Vancouver call for action, and all of these, really these calls whereby we're trying to communicate risk, we're trying to communicate it in plain language. And this is what we are trying to do at a foundational level. So as they grow, as they develop into the course, they know exactly how to do this here. Not when they are qualified, but as they are learning. Right. So I say that ICRP here is an instrument of change, and it really has been. I'm an ICRP task 123 mentee, and being in that group has enabled me to really immerse myself in the literature, go really far back, like in the 1940s, really far back up until now. And I wouldn't have done that before had I not been part of this. And this really influences my teaching, because I'm able to now teach really with a deeper understanding of radiation effects. it's really such an honor and privilege to be amongst the experts who really facilitate, who really are so wise, but also so humble. And I have to say this, that they are really nice people. You know, and as Kelsey was saying, you think ICRP and you think this big organization that, you know, people from Africa really can't get in there, and how would you get in? But really, they are so accessible and they are so friendly and really willing to share their knowledge and expertise. And also being in the ICRPs makes me really conscious of the magnitude and importance of radiation protection globally. And this feeds into our teaching again, whereby our students must be able to work anywhere in the world. It's not that radiation protection is very good and very strong in developed countries, but in developing countries, we are just there. We need to be on par. So I think really this position has enabled me to translate that information to my students in this region. And like I said, to disseminate accurate, up-to-date, and understandable information to underserved regions, and really softening the science and making something that's really what may seem complex understandable. And lastly, the most important business of one generation is the raising of the next generation. Nothing else you do in life will be as deeply satisfying. And it's so ironic that I am considered the next generation, but I am actually teaching the next generation. And for me, there's nothing more deeply satisfying than being able to see faces light up and like, oh, wow, and having that, you know, that moment of, wow, is that really what happened? And this is how it impacts me now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hafsa. Thank you for your efforts to teach the next generation. Thank you so much. So we are jumping to Piotr Pankowski. He is a mentee of the task group 116 and an associate professor at the Department of Nuclear Physics and Radiation Safety, Faculty of Physics and Applied Informatics at the University of Łódź in Poland.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, organizer, for giving me this opportunity. Let me share my screen. Here it is. I hope everybody see my presentation.
Yeah, we see it.
Well, thank you. Probably I can't be considered as a young scientist anymore. But anyway, thank you for this opportunity to present myself and encourage everyone from the young scientist community to start their career in radiation protection. Let me say a few words about myself. Well, my career in radiation protection is not very long. I do not work all my professional life in radiation protection. I shifted from basic science. So on the right side of the screen, you can see the kind of equipment I have used to work. In 1998, I graduated University of Łódź at the Faculty of Physics, and I continue my career in solid state science. I was specialized in low-dimensional structures. I defended my PhD thesis in Institute of Physics of Polish Academy of Science. And I went all the usual steps for the young scientists, like postdoc, contracts and scholarships. And about 15 years ago, after I finished my postdoc in the United States, I came back to Poland. I got a little bit tired of this basic science because at some point it was so specialized that I got the feeling that nobody understood really what I was doing except a very small group of the specialists. So for my personal comfort, I decided to switch to something that is more, to something that is closer to application and to people. I wanted to feel that I'm doing something useful. So I applied for a job for a new created governmental institution called National Center for Radiation Protection in Healthcare. And I was accepted for a position of head of dosimetry department. This is not very large. At that time, it wasn't a large institution. My department was like 5 people in total, but the tasks were very challenging. That was the time when we had to adjust the law in Poland to European regulations, and the radiation protection in healthcare became a very important task. So my main task in this new institution was to deal with medical exposure of Polish population. I was my group, my department was supposed to prepare every 5 years the complete report about medical exposure of the population. So you can see the task that I have to look at, and I have to start. I had to learn these all tasks. My previous experience from the science has been extremely helpful, but I had to learn so much. You can see that this was radiation physics, dosimetry, medicine, and medical statistics. Medicine happened to be extremely interesting, but I don't know which one was the toughest. Probably public administration was the most difficult task that I had to learn and find out how the public administration work. I also had I was working at this position for 12 years. You know, on the beginning, when somebody doesn't know that something is very difficult, so usually starts doing it. So that was somehow my case, and we managed to run the system that is designed for estimation of medical exposure, and it happens that it works very well, I guess. But this work, this 12 years work, was extremely challenging, but also extremely developing. I had the opportunity to learn the management of the huge project and how to maintain collaboration, national and international. And the tasks that we had to do were very complex because if you look at them, let me say a few facts about medical exposure. So everybody knows, and this is common knowledge, that ionized radiation is recognized carcinogen, right? So everybody knows that it's scary, but at the same time, the fact is that medical applications are the largest source of exposure in all developed countries. So from the one side, we have to protect people from the radiation. From the other side, every day, millions and millions of people, patients, are exposed to ionized radiation. So the very challenging task is support patients with the honest information about radiation risk, as well as the workers who use radiation every day. So this task gives me some kind of feeling that what I do is very needed and at some point very helpful, because at some point of our lives, everybody will know the perspective of patient. But during my career, I also could see the perspective of medical employee and medical physicist, because I also completed an additional specialization in medical physics, which in Poland is conducted at the medical university. So I also had some medical experience, which in my opinion is great. Medicine is wonderful also. So to support people with informed and responsible use of radiation in medicine is an extremely important task. And also, we have to face the fact that many exposures are unnecessary and unoptimized. So there's also issue of exposure of children and pregnant women. So I could only highlight the most important, in my opinion, task that people working in radiation protection has to support the community. And for me, it was the kind of thing that I was looking for, that I could use my science and my skills to support everyday, to support the community of patients, of doctors, of medical physicists, and everyone who is involved in medicine in knowledge and information about radiation risk and radiation protection. So what is the exactly radiation protection in medicine? So this is the protection of populations. It means patients, staff, you have to know the equipment, and at some point, all the tasks that you feel in this area has to end up in legislation, because you need to design legislation in the way that doesn't prevent use of radiation at all, but completely, but supports people with safety, with safe regulations. So at this point, I was using a lot of publications and reports prepared by ICRP, IAEA, and ANSCER, and all other organizations. I was really impressed by the quality of studies prepared by ICRP. And at some point, I always wanted to contribute some, or even small part, to ICRP. And well, I say about it a little bit later, but this finally happens, and that gives me my personal satisfactions. I also had the opportunity to work with IAEA when I got a training on applying, designing, and managing large projects. I designed and conducted 2 large projects within technical cooperation by IAEA. And I also prepared the data about medical exposure for reports of ANSCER. So I think I finally can feel fulfilled in terms of what I do in life and where I am right now. So what were the biggest challenges that I like to think that young scientists will have to face at some point of their career? And if you consider if the radiation protection is for you, perhaps it helps you to focus on to understand what the problems you really have to solve. So all the time we deal with modern technologies in diagnostic and therapy and other also branches, but the modern technologies also always use the regulations for better, safer, and more optimized procedures. So identifying and preventing the light effect of radiation exposure is also extremely important, because you know, millions examinations, million exposures in medicine happens to be conducted in children, for which for who the lifespan is long. So we have to be sure that these exposures can be, the eventual effect of radiation can be minimized for them. There's also question of quality control of the radiological equipment, because many equipment is used in medicine, and the equipment is newer and newer, and the quality control is extremely important. And there's also education, research, and development. You have to educate people, you have to conduct research, and also you have to develop your skills and modern technologies. So 2 years ago, I joined I was happy that I was accepted for the Mentee Group 116. And I can say that this work for these 2 years has been extremely profitable for me, and ICRP has a wonderful people and wonderful experts. And after these 2 years, we decided to run in Poland our local project, which you can see this is about development of guidelines for the use of cone beam tomography image-guided radiotherapy, which is conducted in close collaboration with Polish Society of Medical Physics. So the time is almost up. So let me say let me express some advice and try to answer the question: is it an attractive career path, the radiation protections? So probably it a little bit depends on your point of view, but if you are looking for a career that makes you rich in a very short time, probably there are better ways. But if you are looking for something that is challenging, something that can give you a feeling that you're contributing to the common good, that you're doing something important in life for you and for other people. So I think this is the right way. You can find fulfillment in radiation protection. I'm sure of that. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your insights and your presentation. We are moving on to the next speaker, which is David. David is talking from Australia. He provides clear and accurate information to the community about radiation, and in his communication role at the Australia's Primary Radiation Protection Authority. He also contributes to the ICRP work as a mentee of Task Group 120 and has been involved in updating a radiation communication and risk handbook for the WHO. Outside of work, David is a surf lifesaver, dancer, runner, cyclist, and all-around good bloke. David, you can start.
Accurate. Awesome. Thanks for the introduction, Ämilie. So I will share my screen. So as Ämilie said, my name is David Sibenaler, and I'm going to talk to you about my experience as an ICRP mentee. Before I get into that, I'm going to begin by talking about SIMBA. So before I worked as in communications at the Australian Radiation Protection Nuclear Safety Agency, I also studied screenwriting. And one of the reasons that Disney is so popular is because their stories have a universal appeal. And I wanted to highlight The Lion King because I quite like Simba's story. And I think it's one that many of us, I think, on the call today can relate to. So Simba is essentially trying to find his place in life, in this path unfolding. And that's a universal message that many of us can relate to in our personal lives, in our professional lives, and in the extracurricular activities we're doing. We're all trying to find our place. So I guess for me, probably the main benefit that I found from being involved in the ICRP has been the sense of community. So I'm a part of Task Group 120, pictured here, and we come from all different countries. Some of us speak different languages. We have different roles within radiation protection, but we also have a lot of things in common. So each of us work for different radiation protection authorities, national radiation protection authorities. I work in Australia, others work in other countries. And so each of us work for organizations that have a core belief of wanting to benefit the community and benefit and protect other people. And each of us also exhibit those qualities on the personal level. And I guess I'll highlight my mentor, Anne, who is the task group lead. And I think she's just a really fabulous person. She also not only is really involved in our task group and has had a really interesting career, but she's also involved in lots of cool, interesting extracurricular activities. And I just love being surrounded by people that just have lots of different passions in life. And so I've really found some interesting like-minded people to be associated with. So that's definitely something that I've taken away from being involved in the ICRP. And speaking of my involvement, I feel like I'll just quickly give you a bit of a background. Marin and I, so there's 2 mentees in task group 120, and Marin and I both have communication experience, and we joined in 2023. And essentially, we've been tasked with developing social media templates to help authorities around the world with timely and accurate messaging during an emergency, a radiation emergency or a malicious event. And then Marin and I are also contributing to some of the communication considerations for the bigger publications that our task group, which is looking at radiation emergencies and malicious events, is developing. So back to kind of the benefits of being involved in the ICRP that I've experienced as a mentee, and recognition is another one. So this was a picture that was taken at European Radiation Protection Week last year, and our task group is pictured here, and someone from the task group was presenting. And one of my colleagues from Australia attended the conference. He didn't know that I was a part of the ICRP or I was involved in any capacity, and I was a part of this task group. So when he saw my name, he saw my photo, he took a photo, and then he shared it when he got back to Australia, and we were talking at the water cooler about, you know, my involvement, what I've been doing. So it was really nice recognition, and I've had a few interactions with colleagues like that since becoming a mentee, because the ICRP is the eminent health authority on radiation protection across the world. So it's really well respected. And in Australia, many of our national guidelines and codes are based on what the codes and exposure limits the ICRP sets. So it's really well respected. And yeah, I've received a lot of recognition at the water cooler for being involved, which has been nice. The other benefit has been being a scientist. So my original qualifications, I have a few. I've already spoken about one, that was screenwriting. The other one was science. I studied science as my undergraduate, and it wasn't a career that I pursued. Instead, I've kind of looked at communicating science to the public, and I will talk about that a little bit later. So by being involved in the task group, I've had the opportunity of being an author on a paper, which is pretty cool. It's my first paper ever, so it's kind of really thrilling and exciting. I just never thought that is something that I would have ended up doing when I kind of pursued communication as my career. But to be able to kind of come back and do something like that and use a different kind of skill set that I have, or a different interest that I have, has been the benefit of being involved in the ICRP. I think whenever you volunteer your time in something, you're able to kind of draw on other skills or interests that you have. So it's been a really rewarding experience from that perspective. And I guess I've spoken about some of what I've taken from the ICRP, but now I'm going to talk about maybe perhaps something that I've given and a skill set I've shared. So my day job is science communication, and that kind of marries my science qualification, my screenwriting communication qualification. I guess science communication is this kind of academic term, and I'm sharing here a picture which I think illustrates what I think science communication is all about. So this is Britney Spears. She's teaching physics. Some of the people on this call may not understand, but in the early 2000s, she was like the biggest pop star of all time. Most searched celebrity on Google many years in a row, and her songs were, you know, listened to by hundreds of millions of people. And she was really the kind of the it star of the early 2000s. And this physicist kind of captured that popularity and used it to make people interested in semiconductor physics. Now, his website, because of the references to Brittany and references to song lyrics, it made him really popular. And his little physics website was the third most viewed science kind of website in, I think it was like 2000 or something like that. So while I can't necessarily use Britney Spears to explain everything that my organization does, I guess I just have that attitude of trying to make science interesting and relatable and relevant to as many people as possible. And that's kind of, I guess, the skill set that I'm trying to share with the ICRP. And just finally, I guess, the biggest thing that I've been able to take away from my experience has just been confidence. Have more knowledge about radiation protection. I feel more confident about my ability as a communications person for a radiation protection authority. And it's definitely given me ideas that I can bring back to my workplace and try to execute. And similarly, I've kind of, and sort of, everyone in the task group talks to me like, David, you're the communications person. What do you think? What do you think? And my opinions are really valued and my contribution is really valued. And yeah, it's just really built my career confidence and development. So, if there are people watching and you'd like to get involved, I strongly encourage you to do so. If you're someone watching and wanting to support people to kind of have this professional development experience, of course, please support it. So that's my experience. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. You're so enthusiastic. It's so nice to see your presentations. We're going to move on to the next speaker, which is Takahiko. He has mainly worked in marine environmental monitoring after ALPS, treated water discharge into the sea, and has established the series of environmental radioactivity measuring methods as standard manual for environmental radioactivity analysis and environmental radiation measurement in the NRA since 2023. Takahiko has also worked to help expand this network by participating in various conferences as the chair of the IRPA Young Leadership Committee.
Thank you for your kind introduction. My name is Takahiko Kono. I'm mainly in charge of marine environmental monitoring after ALPS treated water discharge into the sea at Radiation Monitoring Division, Radiation Protection Department, Nuclear Regulation Authority, NRA, Japan. I appreciate the chance to present at this prestigious ICRP Next Generation webinar. Now, I share my presentation material. Ämilie, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see. Yeah, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Today, today I'd like to talk to you about towards development of future radiation protection field through my radiation protection works and activities of ARPA Young Generation Network. This is outline of my presentation. This presentation is composed of 4 parts. Firstly, I would like to tell you about why I get involved in radiation protection. I started my career in radiation protection because I would like to conduct environmental radiation monitoring to confirm that is not at a level that would affect people and or the environment around nuclear facilities, and to disseminate correct information obtained from environmental radiation or radioactivity monitoring. I feel that this work is very important to ensure the safe operation of nuclear facilities and to provide relief to the residents living in the surrounding areas. Through this work, I entered in the radiation protection world and have got specialized knowledge and experience in this field, and I have worked in this field because I want to be a helpful people in our society and for Japan. Okay, next, I'd like to introduce my three main works about radiation protection. Firstly, I have got involved with the revision of the series of environmental radioactivity measuring methods as a project leader at NRA. The series of environmental radioactivity measuring methods look like this is the manual, Japanese manual on analysis and measurement methods for radioactivity that have been formulated by the government like NRA. The series has been revised based on technological advances and lessons learned from the accident at the Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Station to improve measurement accuracy. The standard methods for sample collection and analytical methods, etc., were mainly established for monitoring practitioners in local governments. It has been established sequentially since 1974. With the establishment of NRA, they were transferred from NEXT to Nuclear Regulation Authority, NRA. Some of them have not been revised for more than 40 years and needs to be reviewed based on technological progress and the experience of the Fukushima nuclear power plant station accident. You can see the manual from this website, Japanese and English web pages. Okay, next I tell you about Japan's efforts to do marine environmental radioactivity monitoring. Japan's efforts to do the marine environmental radioactivity monitoring after Alps treated water discharge into the sea have been reviewed by IAEA task force team composed IAEA and international experts in order to improve their reliability and transparency. According to the report on its second review mission of safety aspects of handling of Alps treated water at Fukushima Daiichi Nuclear Power Station since the start of the discharge, published July 18, 2024. IAEA highly evaluated contribution to Japanese marine environmental monitoring. The IAEA task force stated that it appraises Nuclear Regulation Authority, NRA, Ministry of the Environment, Fishery Agency Japan, Fukushima Prefecture, and TEPCO for the comprehensive radiation monitoring plan and its proper implementation, which contribute to marine environmental monitoring with the Alps treated water discharge into the sea. IAEA also reiterated the importance of the IAEA's continuous collaboration activities and on-site independent monitoring, sampling, and analysis in enhancing the confidence of all stakeholders as well as the international community and in conducting transparent and objective verification. NRA works relevant organizations to improve reliability and transparency of sea area monitoring. Okay, from this slide, I would like to thirdly, I have performed activity via Q&A website to disseminate right information about radiation after the accident of Fukushima Nuclear Power Station at Japan Health Physics Society, JHPS. Volunteers, including me, JHPS have been providing right information on radiation and radioactivity via an internet website soon after the Fukushima accident. The named questions and answers about radiation in daily life started from 25th March 2011. In August 2011, sharing committee of the Q&A website in JHPS was officially established in Japan Health Society. 24 Young Researchers Association members answered the question until January 2013. The number of questions are 1870, and we answered politely for all questions from publics. Japan Health Physics Society, JHPS, published a book in Japanese on July 2013, and representative 18 questions were selected from all questions. Okay, from this slide, I would like to introduce about IRPA Young Generation Network shortly. The IRPA Young Generation Network is an international network of young professionals across the field of radiation protection. Its primary function is to promote communication, collaboration, and professional development of students and young professionals in the area of radiation protection and its allied fields. Membership of the IRPA Young Generation Network is open to all members of international and national radiation protection. Young Generation Networks and where a national YGN is not in place, students or professionals working within the first 10 years of the career in the field of radiation protection or its allied fields. I would like to make the following efforts to enhance the activities of IRPA Young Generation Network in the future. This is 4 parts. Participants to various Young Generation events, ICRP, look like this, IRPA, IAEA, and each domestic radiation protection associations, and strengths of network among worldwide Young Generation Network, and discussions within Young Generation Network on current topics in radiation protections, and involvement of many young researchers and engineers and students to IRPA Young Generation Network. Okay, as a conclusion, I would like to summarize the major points. I have always found my work in radiation protection to be very rewarding. In particular, my work at Nuclear Regulation Authority, NRA, has been a culmination of my career. Whether local or global, the future of radiological protection relies on the contribution of young professionals, sharing ideas, experiences, achievements, and developing good relationships are vital to this network. Therefore, I strongly hope to get opportunities participating in both regional and international events in the future. With the support of IRPA and its associate societies, these activities will help expand the YGN and strengthen the relationship between YGN countries. I believe these efforts will contribute to development of future radiation protection. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Takahiko. We are now moving to our next section, which is called Navigating Career Pathways and Building a Future in Radiological Protection. And for that, our first speaker is Nicole Martinez. She is a longtime ICRP member, contributing her expertise in radiation protection to multiple task groups. She was vice chair of Task Group 110, which published ICRP publication 153. Nicole is currently a member of task groups 114, 125, and 129, and the Committee for Working Party on Sustainable Development. She has also been a member of Committee for Application of the Commission's recommendations since 2017 and has held the role of Vice Chair since 2021.
Great. Thank you so much, Ämilie. Can you see my slides okay?
Yeah, we can see your slides.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, it is my pleasure to be here to talk a little bit about some career options in radiological protection. I am a faculty member at Clemson University in the United States, and I also have a joint faculty appointment at Oak Ridge National Lab. And that's really where I'm going to start, is kind of my history and how I got to where I am today. So I've only ever worked in the United States. So this is a picture of the United States. I'm from Tennessee. I grew up mostly in Texas and did an undergraduate degree in applied mathematical sciences. And I'm going to be honest, math is still one of my favorite things. After my undergraduate degree, I actually joined the military, and I did training in Rhode Island. And then I became an instructor at Naval Nuclear Power Training Command. The United States Navy has some nuclear powered vessels, and their sailors have to be trained. And I was one of the teachers there for a couple of years. Then I transitioned into radiation health or radiation protection. And this was actually my first introduction at Naval Nuclear Power Training Command to radiation protection. So again, like you do, you have training. And then I was assigned to Naval Medical Center, Portsmouth. So although this is still the military, this is still the U.S. Navy, this is a very different position. This was at a hospital where I basically did medical health physics as an assistant radiation safety officer. After I did my term in the Navy, I moved out to Colorado to industry, where I worked for General Physics Corporation, and they do consulting for conventional power. I decided that I missed radiation protection, so I went to graduate school just a little bit north in the state in Fort Collins, Colorado, and did a master's degree in health physics, where I focused on occupational exposure in the veterinary context, so specifically from positron emission tomography studies in pets, or as I like to joke, pets. I stayed for a PhD, but I shifted to an environmental focus, and part of my PhD was at a national lab where I did some biosensing or sensing contaminants in the environment. I returned to Colorado to finish up some modeling aspects of my PhD in radioecology, and then, if you can believe it, I wound up in South Carolina for a third time in the upstate, as we call it, that corner of South Carolina, at Clemson University, where I'm a faculty member, as I just mentioned, and I also collaborate with Oak Ridge National Lab. So my research at Clemson is largely focused on radioecology, but then my work at the National Lab is more in computational dosimetry, or more kind of classic radiological protection. So I tell you this for a couple of reasons. One, so you can see some of the variety. This is just one person, although I changed jobs enough that my parents did worry about me for a while, but they're proud of me, don't worry. And to also give you the lens kind of through which I see career opportunities in radiation protection. So this discussion that we're going to go through is really my personal views and experience. And as I mentioned, I've only worked in the United States, so that's largely where my perspective comes from. And also, I'm going to highlight a couple of things, but given that this is a fairly quick 10 minutes, I'm not going to be able to get to all of them. I'm just going to highlight a few, and different people are going to come at this from different ways. And then I've grouped this into academia and industry, nonprofit, so kind of private, and then government or public. And these are just kind of arbitrary buckets to help me kind of organize or talk about some of the opportunities in radiation protection, or really some things that are radiation protection adjacent. So I'll start with the academy, because this is where I am now. This is really college and university faculty when we say academia, but academia is also where you get education for bachelor's, for master's, for PhD. You would also, physicians, medical physicists, things like that, other advanced degrees would be considered in the academy as well. Different things that you do as a faculty member, different categories: research and scholarship, teaching and advising, service and practice, some combination of these. So research and scholarship is could be writing grants to get funding to do research, and scholarship is really research dissemination. So giving presentations, writing papers, things like that. Teaching and advising, so teaching courses, and that could be undergraduate courses, that could be graduate courses, as we saw Hafsa talking about earlier, and also advising. So this could be academic advising, so what classes students should take, or it could be research advising. And sometimes a faculty member might do one of those, or they might do both of those. And it may not be the same faculty advising for courses as for advising for research. Service is things like serving on committees at your institution or serving in a professional society or organization. So for example, volunteering with the ICRP would be an example of service. And then practice, this kind of depends. My experience is that practice is more in the medical context. So for example, someone with an MD and a PhD who's on the faculty probably also practices medicine. They probably also see patients. I think medical physicists who are on the faculty also are practicing medical physicists. Well, occasionally some faculty, I personally don't do radiation safety at my institution, but some faculty might actually serve as a radiation safety officer as well. There are also faculty who focus just on research and scholarship. There are faculty that primarily focus on teaching, so instructional faculty. And then there are faculty like myself whose focus is research, teaching, and service, and of course also the scholarship and advising. So even in the academy, there are a lot of different opportunities. So some faculty positions require a PhD, but other faculty positions might not, particularly the instructional faculty. Typically, it's a graduate degree, a master's degree in the subject that you're teaching, but you might not necessarily need a PhD. So that's academia. And then also industry and nonprofits. There's various types of professionals across multiple sectors. So energy, medicine, remediation, different things like that. And I would include this could be a radiation protection technologist who's also really important in promoting radiation protection, all the way up through maybe a senior health physicist or something like that. So there are a lot of different roles in industry and nonprofits. So things you might focus on are health and safety. That's the bread and butter of radiation protection, right? Making sure your workers are safe, making sure the public is safe, and also considering the environment or environmental health. There are also, just because you're not in the academy doesn't mean you can't do research. So there's a lot of research design and development in industry. This can be in science. This could also be in engineering. A lot of industry and nonprofits provide policy advice for government and also do training. So I mentioned the academy and the education you can get there, but in industry, you're also training. So you might have an apprenticeship, for example. You might have other on-the-job training. But then as a radiation protection person, you might offer radiation protection training from maybe very simple to a little more complex to people who work in your particular organization. And then the last one I have is government. So government, obviously, this is going to be different depending on the country, but you could have civil service, contractors, military. I gave some example of my military service. National labs, I kind of consider to be government in the United States, but a lot of the national labs are run by contractors. So technically, they're not civil servants. So you can kind of see how there's some overlap between industry, government, and even the academy. So they're not exact buckets when I separate them like this. But the role of a governmental employee, develop regulation and also enforce regulation. So for example, in the United States, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is our primary regulatory body. They also happen to be one of the happiest federal workers. They are really proud of that. And that's great that the workers there are quite happy. They also work in public policy and advice. So, for example, the Environmental Protection Agency in the US issues lots of public advice on various things related to radiation protection. Also, there are government researchers. I mentioned national labs. Lots of research from fundamental to applied happens in government labs, and also health and safety. So I have an example here. Pictured is Oak Ridge National Lab, and you have researchers there working in research related to radiation protection, but then you also have the folks who do the radiation protection and make sure those scientists are working safely. So there's a lot of different roles that you can play across different sectors. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's impossible to be bored when you're talking, when you're speaking. We're going to move to our next speaker, which is Tomas Kron. Tomas was born and educated in Germany. After his PhD, he migrated to Australia in 1989, where he commenced his career in radiotherapy physics. He now is director of physical sciences at Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre in Melbourne, leading a team of 50 engineers and physicists. He is professor and he has interests in education of medical physicists, dosimetry of ionizing radiation, image guidance in clinical trials, which is demonstrated by 110 invited conference presentations and more than 350 papers in refereed journals.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Let me know if not, and I hope you can also see my screen. I'm probably more an accidental radiation protection person, but I certainly enjoyed the presentation so far. I thought this was a fantastic variety of things to see, and I hope I can add a bit to that. Before we get started, this is the place I'm coming from. Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre is a relatively large, comprehensive cancer centre operating on 5 campuses with 16 linear accelerators and so on, a couple of CT scanners. We have quite an active educational part as well, with a couple of postdocs, PhD students, and also clinical trainees of medical physics overall. Radiation safety is really sort of going throughout all these areas as such. And it is really something which all these people are involved with in one way or another, but mostly really from the side of a radiation user. I am also a member of the Australian Radiation Protection Accreditation Board. That's a board which tries to certify radiation protection people in order to basically show the public that these people know what they are doing. As ethics is one of the important parts of radiation protection, I also should give you my potential conflicts of interest, which are research collaborations with a number of companies. But I think I can manage this conflict in the context of this presentation. The presentation would like to sort of show from my perspective how one can become a member of a profession, and that could be medical physics or radiation protection, could be really anything in a public environment. Discuss a few approaches to education, and here I have to confess that I did also study for a couple of years philosophy, and you will get sort of a bit of ethics thrown in, and a couple of different philosophical approaches to education. To explore, and finally, I'd like to explore the role of mentorship as part of what the ICRP really has started in a very successful way, in particular as considered by ICRP. So if you become a member of a profession, you're going through your normal education background here, from primary school through a degree, and in radiation protection and most medical physics environments, you typically end up with a master's degree or a PhD in a relevant discipline. At some point in time, you also need to accompany that by some clinical training in medical physics. That would be 2 years of clinical training. In radiation protection, this can be just professional activity, which would be under some sort of supervision. And then after that supervised clinical practice, one would move into unsupervised clinical practice, basically being a professional in your profession. This is typically accompanied by continuous professional development as such, to make sure that the future is not static, but that we as professionals can keep up with that future. So research, teaching, training, and education become really part of that career as such. This is also typically where, at least in medical physics and probably in many professions, we are starting to get let loose on the larger community of co-workers, on the larger community of patients, of society, of the public, and so on. I now want to very briefly run you through a couple of education theories. This is sort of a common selection, with behaviorism being what we know through Skinner or the Pavlov's dog, where basically the education would see someone coming in as a blank slate. They do observe what is happening, repeat it. If they do it right, be rewarded, repeat it, rewarded, repeat it, rewarded, and so on, and thereby build up some education as such. More common in our field is cognitivism, which is basically doing something similar, but it is accompanied by the idea that we do need to engage our brain. So we plan for an objective, then observe that, think about it, analyze it, journal it, reflection of it, and so on. And that obviously resonates with the STEM and science quite well. And that I showed you the objectives of the presentation is sort of a typical way of engaging in a cognitivistic education approach, because I give you an opportunity to plan for that presentation. Humanism is another important area, and that sort of reflects really on the need for ethics, of responsibilities, and the fact that each person, is really different, learns differently, and basically it gets across the idea that there is something good in people which we just need to develop as such. So that makes perfect sense in the context of radiation protection, because ethics is such an integral aspect of radiation protection, at least from my perspective, because ALARA, the optimization area, what is reasonable is really an ethical question on a number of different things: the economic environment, the cultural environment, and so on. And ICRP really at times it explains that with relationships, rationale, what we want to achieve, and the resources as such. But it's not just optimization, which is really the physicists and medical physicists' domain, but there are all these other areas in radiation protection, from justification to how do we set limit values? Should they be similar to risks in other professions? How are we dealing with emergencies? And finally, obviously, space travel, where we know that people get more limit values. So that takes me to my final point, where all these wonderful ethical issues really need to be taught. These are soft skills, and they are typically quite difficult to incorporate in a curriculum as such that the area of mentoring, which is a bit broader and brings in people really from a multidisciplinary environment, people who may not have quite the same interests and quite the same background and working environment you are in, into the equation, who can potentially focus a bit more on these soft skills. And that takes me, if I talk about future, really to the also to the final thing about connectivism, because if we talk about future, connectivism is sort of currently the key thing of in education, because in addition to the fact that they acknowledge that learning may reside in non-human appliances, It's a bit of a challenge. Yeah, it also looks at diversity of opinions and considers really connections and nodes and thinking between the lines, between the different fields as the most important aspect. Something obviously a mentor can very easily or is having an opportunity to actually engage. So what has been my experience with a mentorship overall, and I've been a mentor in a number of different medical physics environments, it does connect people voluntarily. That is obviously a really, really important aspect because mentorships, from my experience, not always go out well, and sometimes mentor and mentee just can't relate to each other. That's perfectly fine. It's a voluntary environment. It's a two-way process, and as a mentor, I learn at least as much as the mentee, and I'm really, really grateful to all the mentees I had over all the years. It can operate virtually, which is really, really helpful, in particular during COVID, but also after COVID, because it allows us to connect with people in other areas. And we are currently exploring in medical physics for work benefits how this can be done virtually by connecting people in high-income countries with people in low-income countries. It can address these soft skills, which we were talking about. And these are the sort of typical bank of soft skills, ranging from education to time management, empathy, and ethics. In the ICRP context, this has taught me that it can include practical work, enhances the work of the task group tremendously. It is really never not long enough. Mentorship is not something which finishes when the official mentoring contract has been finished. So thank you very much. And I obviously consider that John Dewey does deserve some music. And I really like this quote of his, that the goal of education is really only to enable individuals to continue. Thank you very much. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tomas. Thank you so much for your insights. We are going to go now to our last speaker, which is Simon. He is a deputy director of the Radiation Protection Sciences Department of the UK Health Security Agency and local village pond conservation volunteer. Simon is also the vice chair of the ICRP main commission and coordinates the ICRP mentorship program.
Okay, thank you. I think I just need to, do I need to swap to see, is that showing correctly for you?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And I think you really want to thank prior speakers, many sort of really insightful and inspirational presentations. I've learned a lot myself already. So I'm just going to give you a quick run through of what some of the opportunities that are available within ICRP, but also elsewhere, and providing a bit of background about what the ICRP mentorship program is all about, how it originated, and how you might be able to get involved as well. So, yeah, well, that's all, basically what I said. I'm going to talk through a bit about the origins of the scheme, how you might apply to get a mentorship position, talk through a few of the activities or typical activities that are carried out by mentees within the program, talk to a thing that I'm working on quite a lot in terms of developing a mentee community, and then touch on, as I said, some related opportunities. So to do the historical bit, it's been going for a while now. We're into the 6th year, established in 2019, which on reflection is maybe not the best year of starting a mentorship program, because being 1 year pre sort of global pandemic lockdown era, which we are thankfully out of now, but it's about that 6 years old. The ambition was and still is to create a program that would help professional development of participants and involve further input into specific task groups. So this really is one of the key points I think that I want to bring home, and it has come up in some of the talks already. It's a two-way process. Not only do mentees get something out of the program, but ICRP gets something out of the mentees as well. So it's very much mutually beneficial. And it has that important role in helping to develop the next generation of professionals that will contribute to the work of ICRP and perhaps more widely in radiation protection anywhere in the world. And has been said by Kelsey, I think, at the beginning, the mentorship program effectively contributes to the Vancouver call for action to strengthen the expertise in RP worldwide. Mentorship program actually predates the Vancouver call, but they're clearly complementary in their ambition. We currently have 66 mentees and a few that have sort of been through and sort of dropped out of the scheme. We're looking at sort of developing a way of keeping track of and networking within, you know, the current and past mentee community. It's not quite there yet. Mentees have specific tasks. They are assigned to a specific task group to do a particular job, and you will have a specifically identified mentor from within the task group membership. We've currently got 12 task groups with mentees and 4 that have had mentees in the past. So an important thing, I think, for many of you will be how you can become involved. So the key thing is to look out for mentorship opportunity calls on the ICRP website. They will be prominently displayed on the front page banner somewhere, I'm almost certain. And there's a simple process to go through, and it really is not burdensome at all. Simple written application, your motivation, letter of motivation from yourself, support from your own organization, and you know, your professional curriculum vitae. So just as outlining your education, your experience, any publications you might have, or other particular features you might wish to highlight about your career to date. Then there's a sort of a selection process which is consultative between committee chairs, task group chairs, with a scientific secretariat to identify suitable pairings, basically, of mentees and mentors within the confines of the specific task being asked for. Because when the call is advertised on the ICRP website, there will be a very specific task that you'll be applying to carry out within that task group. So you will be assigned a specific task, and you'll know what that is before you get stuck into it. So it's very, I hope, transparent, so people know what you're getting into. And what might you be getting into? So there's actually quite a wide range of different activities that mentees have to date carried out. I think we should say this is not going to be an exhaustive list. The list of things that people get involved in will expand as time continues. I think at the core of many is literature review. Many of the publications or task groups works do need to delve into literature in depth, looking at long historical reviews sometimes, as Hafsa highlighted in her presentation. So that is one of the core things. But others have carried out calculations and simulations in the medical area, for example, and measurement on equipment and dose assessments, again in the medical area. Development and conduct of surveys, and also activities around collection of data using spreadsheets and other tools as well. So quite a variety of things, and there's no one mentee size that fits all, in fact. Just to give you a view of what the numbers really look like at the moment. The graph to the right shows the growth over time, relatively slow start and a big jump up, and we're steadily increasing still. This being a cumulative graph up to the current number of 80, past and present. You'll note to the left there's one particular task group to be mentioned by Piotr, I think it was, task group 116, which has a particularly large number of mentees involved in it, and they've worked very cooperatively, I think, on various areas. So developing the community. I mean, obviously, you've got a mentee. If you enter into the mentorship program, you'll have your specific task group related activities, and you'll be invited along to all task group meetings. But to develop the sort of mentees as a grouping, we've set up a series of quarterly meetings online, trying to vary the time of day to try and accommodate all the time zones we work across. And I think that must be quite a struggle for some of you. Luckily, it's not too bad for me. We, amongst ourselves, kind of did a bit of brainstorming about the format and content for the meetings. So we now landed with a series of 3 broad topics. So learning about what ICRP does, so presentations from each of the ICRP committees on a rotational basis to know what's going on within those and what their sort of future plans are. Mentee-led meetings, so, you know, what are people doing in their task group activities, or alternatively, what do they do back in their home organizations, in their day job? And then finally, presentations from others who work in relevant organizations like UNSCEAR, which is the United Nations group, the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, IAEA and WHO, and very occasional, and I think there's only been one in-person get-togethers. They're opportunistic. Last one was in Tokyo with the symposium, and I would expect and hope very much that we will be able to have some sort of gathering at the next symposium in Abu Dhabi. Other opportunities, and these are slides actually taken from the next two, from presentations we had from some of those other organizations within the Mentee community meetings. Firstly, from UNSCEAR, just to highlight that, you know, the ICRP is not the only organization trying to encourage involvement of young professionals. Different organizations have different routes in. UNSCEAR has opportunities where if you're an UNSCEAR member nation, you can offer in-kind experts, and Canada really led the way, or currently lead the way in this, in having a number. There can be voluntary positions available if you've got the flexibility with your employer to do that. And also internships are available. This slide, as you can see, is a little bit out of date. It's from May of last year, but there will be internship opportunities coming up. So that is the way that UNSCEAR tries to encourage people to get actually directly involved in the work of that committee. WHO, much the same. We had Ämilie van der Venter some months ago. They have 3 basic streams of opportunity there. I won't go through in detail because there's a lot of words on this slide, but there are links to the relevant places where you should be able to find further information. So, and here's a link for you to find out about the ICRP program with the web address and QR code, which I hope is still current because it's actually a little bit old. But I just wanted to end by in fact, I mean, Ämilie noted that, you know, it was slightly tongue-in-cheek, well, not tongue-in-cheek, but, you know, truthfully, I said I get involved in pond conservation, which I do, and is, you know, I think one of the messages today for me is don't get afraid to get stuck in. You know, you might end up a little bit feeling like you're out of your depth at sometimes. I've been waist high in cold water sometimes, but you'll enjoy the experience ultimately, and you'll find it very rewarding. So don't hesitate to get involved, I think, is my main message. And I certainly hope many of you will. So with that, I'll say thank you very much, and hopefully leave a bit of time for some question and answer coming later.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much. I would like to invite all the panelists to turn on your cameras. We will now start with our Q&A session. We have 15 minutes for that. We can go over some questions in the chat, but we also have some other questions to ask. Let me see here. So there's a question from Joni. Let me find it. Good morning. My question is why we have a lack of job. Oh, sorry, I missed it. Why we have a lack of job opportunities with a lot of international societies in radiation protection for radiation protection physicists based inside the European Union. Would somebody like to answer that? That's a pretty deep question. Well.
Hey, sorry, this is Nicole. I think the question was specifically about the European Union, so I'm not going to answer that question, but so we get an answer. In the US, there are actually quite a bit of radiation protection opportunities. It might be that they're not as easy to find as you might think. So maybe the challenge is more in better advertising of those positions. But I hear a lot from our industry friends that they really need radiation protection technologists in particular is where the need is, at least in the United States.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for answering that. I have a question that I would like to ask every one of you. Was there a moment or experience that made you say, this is the field for me?
Sorry, Kelsey, can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is probably a silly answer, but everyone was really nice. I got to do math and science, and the people were very friendly, at least in my experience in radiation protection, and that made me feel like maybe that was the place for me.
Oh, that's a good answer.
I think
I've got a slightly different.
Go ahead, Tomas.
It's a good answer. I've got a slightly different answer. It was probably when I was with a patient in a lift, and they talked about their fear of radiation in a radiotherapy department, and I thought, oh, something needs to be done. The future can't be people living with fear.
I think well, first of all, there was actually somebody who made a comment that the timer sounded like the Hunger Games when somebody died, and I just want to, whoever said that, like, it was an awesome comment, and I laughed, and I know many people on the panel also did. So yes, you're right for that. For mine's like I kind of, and I've heard this answer from many people before, especially people that might be involved in energy or hospitals, is that like I kind of got into it by accident or not on purpose, kind of. And I've heard this answer many times from people around the world. It was like, I never envisioned myself being, now again, I'm not a technical expert by any means, but it was just kind of an opportunity that seemingly kind of came out of nowhere, and it was an opportunity to engage internationally. And to Nicole's point, like the people were like super nice, and it was kind of like, why not? And I think that is great, but at the same time, I think part of what this whole thing is really trying to make it so that less people are accidentally getting into it, and more people are getting into it with purpose. And I think that is a part of the challenge that we're kind of all facing. But
yeah, I would like to answer that as well. So for me, it was more like following the open doors, like there were some open doors, and they were kind of setting this path for me. I wouldn't say that it was like by accident, but actually like it was a process of decision, which door should I enter in, and in the end I kind of fell in love with the field. So that's why I'm here today. Anyone else would like to comment that?
Ämilie, I could, if you like. I mean, in a sense, I fell into the area in a very traditional way. I just applied for a job that I saw advertised, and at the time it was a bench research job. But when I found myself in the environment, I learned, and my eyes were opened a little bit to how important radiation protection is to a wider society, and that is very appealing to me personally. And I think many in the profession are motivated by that sort of motivation for public good. I think Tomas touched on it really, but I think that's an important factor.
Oh, thank you, Simon. Anyone else would like to answer that? No?
Ämilie, maybe I can, a quick one. Well, I was in the clinical department, and I think I kind of got fed up of seeing the complacency with radiation protection. And I used to like to teach all the time, and teaching in a clinical setting is not the best place. So I decided, yes, in the university and academic setting, to target the next generation, the younger generation, in hopes to change what's going on in clinical practice. So,
Nice. That's cool. We've talked so much about, not so much, but we talked about shaping the future, and also especially Tomas, he spoke about this mentoring thing that for him is important. And I would like to ask you guys, how has mentorship, either being a mentor or having one, shaped your journey in this field? I will start answering that because I think I was blessed, I would say, to have good mentors. I had, for example, my master's supervisor, and also my PhD supervisor, and now Augusto, my boss. And I have also some friends. For example, Nina Petusi, she's also my friend, and she's involved in ICRP. But I feel like I have these people mentoring me, like guiding me. They are always also very into introducing me to people and encouraging me to do stuff and to be involved in stuff. And sometimes when I lack motivation, they are also there to give me this external motivation. So I would say that having good mentors, having good supervisors, and like also as models, help me choosing to stay in the field. So I don't think I would be here without good mentors, without good supervisors, for sure.
I think Ämilie, just add the other sort of kind of side of the table, as it were. Although there's not really any actual table between mentors and mentees. I think we really mustn't underestimate, as an organisation, the value we get out of mentees. And I am always really impressed with the quality of the work that's been carried out, and the dedication, insightfulness, and I think they have to acknowledge some of the generational aspects of a greater familiarity with IT sometimes, which comes with the younger generation. More enthusiasm to engage with outlets that David, I think, was talking about, social media, etc. So I think it's genuine. I just want to bring this point again. It's genuinely beneficial both ways around. And I think ICRP as an organisation get as much out of the programme, if not more, than the mentees themselves.
Yeah, I think the ICRP mentorship program, it's valuable for both sides, definitely. Like as I mentioned during my presentation, I got to understand and have and be trained in my technical skills, but also in soft skills, and networking and like having this community. I think it's very important for a mentee as well. And also to see that working for ICRP and engage ICRP, it's a tangible thing, because I remember when I was in college and we were studying the ICRP publications, and it was so far from me. Like it looked like this very formal institution, something so far. And now that I'm a mentee and also involved in another task group, I see that how people are actually so approachable. It's so reachable. It's so tangible, and this is great. I like it's a good work that you guys are doing.
Maybe just two other comments. One is that it's actually fun. Mentees can bring in a lot of joy, interest, and question, and it is challenging, and I do appreciate that, because mentees ask different questions than what co-workers do. They ask different questions to what a PhD candidate would do. They would ask a lot more focused on a particular topic, on a particular scientific endeavor. So mentees have this fantastic role of asking unexpected, interesting questions, which are sort of a bit left field, but thoroughly and enjoyable and challenging, and make you think twice.
Just to add a bit to that, I mean, in terms of more engaging with ICRP too, I think there's more than just kind of like the mentorship and mentee level two. Like I think it'd be wise to talk about like again in Wynn's case, like interning at ICRP, and that can look very different. Like it's not, again, ICRP is a really small organization with very limited resources. So when there's opportunity to basically have a mutually beneficial experience where somebody could perform some work for ICRP, and so they're kind of getting a positive experience out of it, and we're getting work done that needs to get done. ICRP is certainly very open to that, and that's something as simple as just emailing us and trying to contact and to see if something works. Now, again, I'll say that it's not something that ICRP can pay for, but it's certainly kind of an opportunity to be able to do that. And again, even with like the ICRP, it's not just for people who are emerging professionals, like task groups, for instance. There's open calls for those. Same thing, just like our committees that the nominations elections happen every 4 years. So there's opportunities kind of all across the board from kind of being in school, to effectively even being a retiree. There's somebody who just started with ICRP as a technical secretary that's getting ready to retire, and it's just something for them to kind of continue doing. So we are kind of running short, but there's a couple questions that out of the Q&A that I'd like to pull. Ämilie, if you don't mind, I know you were, if that's all right. There was one specifically about teaching, and Nicole, maybe you're best suited for this, or anybody else feel free to jump in, but Hafsa as well. But I'm teaching undergrad and master's students in applied physics. How do I motivate them to do better in research on radiation protection?
I mean, I have that question too, right? I think that speaks to Simon and like generational issues and technology issues. And Hafsa mentioned like education and entertainment and how we engage students. So I think that's a great question. I think what Hafsa is doing and incorporating like gamification is one strategy. And then one of the things I'm doing is also more discussion based and having a lot of discussion with current events. And I think that also to put that kind of clear real world application can sometimes help in that way. And then Hafsa, I imagine you would like to answer as well.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And research in radiation protection is really on the top of my list. And I always tell the students that who are demotivated that, if you want to change the way people see you as a radiation technologist, and if you want people to take you seriously, radiation protection research is where to go, because we really are the experts in this field. Not me, but in general, we are the experts in this field in radiation. We've studied it and we know about radiation. So who better to do research in this? And it's advancing so rapidly. When I look at the research, especially coming from the ICRP, these phantoms that they are creating, they're testing low dose effects on these phantoms, and it's just phenomenal where research is going. So it's a whole new aspect. And I remember the Tokyo conference that I attended, and one of the presentations from UNESCO was that high dose radiation has really been really widely explored, but really low dose radiation is something that is there's so much to do and so much is being done even. So it's really a gap. And I think also just to add on is that just to make it believable and make it understandable. And like I said, recently I've been now incorporating the radiation effects that we know from the atomic bombs. And yeah, just so that there's a bit of an emotional connection to it, that this is real. It's not just for the sake of saying radiation protection. There is actually a possibility of fix. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys for that. And so just because we're not going to be able to get to all the questions that are in the box today, we will do our best to take them and maybe get some sort of written response that we can post online with the event stuff. So maybe we'll take a few more just because we have we're kind of at time now, but we'll cheat maybe a little bit and take a few more minutes. But another one, I don't know who might be best served to answer this question, but somebody's asking, what is the difference in job description of a radiation safety officer versus a radiation protection officer? I don't know if that is one and the same and maybe just called something differently in different places, but if somebody has a answer for that.
I'll take my best shot. I'll say that I'm not sure, and my lens is through the United States. Radiation safety officers specifically have certain levels of like training and qualification that they have to do. I don't know offhand like what the steps to that are. So it's kind of a very specific role. Usually it's something like a hospital, whereas radiation protection officer, that sounds more European to me. I know that that in the UK, isn't there like an RPA, I think, certification? Yeah.
There is, yeah.
So that would be my best guess, but I'm not certain the context.
Yeah, I mean, Nicole, I think there's some sort of complications in the medical physics area, I think, in the terminology used, but I think I would say radiation protection is a broader subject than radiation safety. Radiation safety is very niche and very specific to specific tasks and task-orientated stuff. protection can be a bit wider, as you probably appreciated from some of the presentations today.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And so maybe I'll like I said, we'll do our best to answer all the questions that are kind of that are outstanding and put it on the website afterwards. So I'll say to this question, because it's a good one. From Dean Crouch, it says, I fell into the field by accident as well. Can we engineer the door so that we encourage more people into the field? Load the dice, per se. Well, that's what we're doing here today. And that's what we're trying to accomplish, like more and more, is like make it, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be cool, but like make it interesting and make people see the importance of what I think RP is going, like the role it's going to play and continue to play over the next 20, 30 years as things continue to evolve with, again, like energy and medical and space travel and everything like that. So, yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to comment kind of on that piece to wind things down for the day, but.
Well, I mean, Kelsey, just to add, I mean, I think it's important that well, I think not important. I think everyone recognises that, you know, many countries around the world are intending to invest in nuclear energy generation further to sort of bridge the gap for true sustainable, environmentally friendly energy production. There is the ever increasing number of applications in medicine, which are genuinely life-saving in many cases, but we always need to make sure we've got that risk and benefit balance correct. And, you know, there are worries around the world about the number of professionals in all aspects of radiation safety, including and nuclear skills, actually, and including radiation protection. So I think, you know, anything that can be done. So ultimately, it's about job opportunities. They will be coming, clearly. So I think it's time to invest your own time and get stuck in.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to end today. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Like I said, this is day one. This is kind of more the human aspect of kind of RP. And thank you, everybody, for telling their stories and talking a bit about their work and highlighting some of the opportunities that are out there. And so for tomorrow, it's going to be a different group of people. Again, there is going to be some sort of personal element to it, but again, also sharing from a more organizational perspective what some places are what they're doing currently and what they hope to do in the future. So thank you all for speaking today. Thank you all for coming today, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 2. Bye-bye.